Welcome to the official podcast series by POTENZA, where innovation meets insight. In this series, we dive deep into the world of SAP, explore the power of robotic process automation, and unlock the true potential of data analytics. Whether you're a tech enthusiast, a business leader, or just curious about the digital transformation shaping our world, you're in the right place. Tune in, stay curious, and let's explore the future of enterprise technology together. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on YouTube for more powerful insights. Now, let's get into today's episode.
That highly specific, just totally soul-crushing feeling. Like you were sitting at your desk, staring at two different monitors.
Oh, yeah. The classic dual-screen nightmare.
Right. On the left monitor, you have this massive, completely unwieldy email thread. And then on the right, a spreadsheet.
Let me guess. Your entire job for the next 2 hours is just dragging and dropping data from one screen to the other.
Exactly. Or, maybe you are currently chasing down, like, the fourth person in this ridiculously complex 5-step approval chain just to get a routine document signed off.
And they just aren't answering their messages.
Never. They never answer. You find yourself doing the exact same manual task you did last week and the week before that, and a little voice in your head just screams, there has to be a better way to do this.
It is honestly the universal modern workplace frustration.
Right?
We are walking around with more computing power in our pockets than it took to navigate the Apollo missions to the moon.
Yeah, that's wild to think about.
It is. Yet if you look inside most corporate offices today, we spend hours every single week essentially acting as human data bridges.
Human data bridges. I love that.
Right. We're basically the manual APIs, just connecting different pieces of software that absolutely refuse to speak to one another.
And that concept, the human API, is exactly what our mission is for today's deep dive. We are drawing on a really comprehensive guide by POTENZA, and it's titled, What is Automation Consulting?
Which is a great resource.
It really is.
Yeah.
Our goal is to completely demystify this field for you. Because, the moment you hear the word automation, your brain probably immediately jumps to physical robots working on an assembly line.
Or some sort of artificial intelligence deciding to take over the world.
Exactly. Terminator style. But we're actually going to look at how smart scaling businesses are using this specific consulting discipline to escape those exact operational bottlenecks we just talked about.
And spoiler alert here, we are going to explore why just taking a shiny new piece of software and throwing it at a broken process is an absolute recipe for disaster.
Oh, complete disaster. Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can figure out how these consultants swoop in and fix the operational chaos, we really need to define what the service actually is in the real world.
Right, which is a critical distinction to make early on.
Yeah. According to the source material, automation consulting is a professional service that helps businesses analyze, redesign, and ultimately improve their operations using technology.
It is fundamentally not just buying a subscription to a new app.
Right. So what does it actually look like?
Well, at its heart, this discipline is really about identifying friction. A consultant walks into an organization and looks for those manual, repetitive, just highly inefficient processes that are secretly dragging a business down.
Like the dragging and dropping we talked about.
Exactly. And then they figure out the smartest, most structurally sound way to run them. Think about that 5-step email approval chain you mentioned earlier.
One where nobody replies.
That's the one. A consultant's job is to look at that messy, human-dependent chain and ask, how do we redesign this logic so it can be replaced with a single automated workflow?
Oh, wow.
Or, take a finance team. If those highly paid analysts are spending every Monday morning manually pulling CSV files from 3 different legacy systems.
Ugh, just to format a single report.
Right. That is a prime target for automation.
And, the psychology behind why businesses get into these messes in the first place is honestly fascinating to me. You might look at a bad process and think, well, we've always done it this way. Why pay an outsider to change it?
Which is what a lot of managers think.
Totally. But businesses don't set out to build inefficient systems. It happens organically, right?
Yeah.
Due to rising operational complexity. You start as a small team, everything is simple. But as you grow, things just don't scale neatly.
No, they fracture. You add a specialized piece of software for the sales team, another one for marketing.
Someone who's a scrappy workaround to connect them.
And then, fast forward 3 years, a person who built that workaround leaves the company.
And suddenly you have a black box process that nobody fully understands, but like everyone relies on.
Precisely. And compounding that internal complexity is the external pressure to scale without constantly expending your overhead. Executives want to double revenue, but they don't want to double the size of the back office staff.
Which is a tough spot to be in.
It really is. And when they look to technology for a solution, the tech landscape itself is incredibly noisy. I mean, there are literally hundreds of automation platforms out there right now.
Yeah, you hear all these acronyms like RPA.
Right, which stands for Robotic Process Automation. And just to demystify that quickly, RPA doesn't mean physical robots.
No metal arms typing on keyboards.
No, thankfully. It essentially means software bots programmed to mimic human keystrokes, like opening a file, copying a cell, and pasting it elsewhere. Add in AI-powered workflow products, integration platforms. It is completely overwhelming for a business leader who just wants to process invoices faster.
Looking at that noisy landscape, a really specific analogy popped into my head.
Oh.
Yes, it feels like an automation consultant is essentially a personal trainer for your business operations.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Think about it this way. If you want to get in shape, you can't just go out and buy a bunch of really expensive, complicated gym equipment, which, would be the software tools in this scenario.
Right, the new apps.
Yeah. You can't just buy them and expect to magically get fit because the equipment is sitting in your garage. You need an expert to come in, assess your current physical state, and crucially, correct your form before you even start lifting.
Which is the process redesign.
Exactly. That form correction is the process redesign. Because if you just start throwing heavy weights around with terrible form, you aren't going to get stronger.
Yeah.
You're just going to severely injure your back.
I love that framing, actually, because it highlights the underlying mechanism of why so many tech initiatives fail. If you buy the equipment without the trainer, you are obsessing over the tools, not the strategy.
You're just buying the heavy weights.
Exactly. What the POTENZA text aggressively stresses is that good automation consulting is, first and foremost, a strategic discipline. It is entirely distinct from an IT deployment.
So it's not just installing software. It's questioning the work itself.
Yes. The business outcomes have to sit right at the center of the entire effort. Are you trying to improve data accuracy? Or are you trying to cut customer onboarding time in half?
Right.
Technology is merely the vehicle you use to arrive at those specific business goals. If a consultant just wants to install a platform without interrogating what your business constraints actually are, they aren't consulting.
They're just a software salesperson selling you a treadmill you don't know how to use.
Exactly.
So if we clearly understand what the personal trainer does, how does a business realize it is hopelessly out of shape? Let's connect this broad definition to the real-world symptoms of a struggling organization.
Because there are very clear signals that a business has hit a tipping point and desperately needs this kind of intervention.
Yeah, what are those signals?
Well, the symptoms are almost always hiding in plain sight, usually disguised as hard work.
Oh, that's interesting.
The most glaring signal is when your highly skilled employees are fundamentally bogged down in highly repetitive patterns. If you hired a brilliant financial analyst for their strategic mind, and they are spending half their week just copying and pasting data to generate a routine monthly report.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. But you are actively wasting human potential. You are paying a premium for a brain and utilizing only a pair of hands.
There is another symptom mentioned in the text, which is affectionately, or perhaps terrifyingly, called the bus factor.
Ah, yes, the bus factor. It's a slightly morbid corporate thought experiment.
Morbid.
But effective, it asks. How many people would have to get hit by a bus for your company's operations to completely fail?
And in many organizations, that number is 1.
It's terrifyingly common. If a critical process only works because, say, Sarah from accounting knows exactly which 3 specific buttons to press in a legacy system, and the whole month-end close grinds to a halt if she gets the flu, that business is carrying massive operational risk.
Because institutional knowledge is concentrated entirely in Sarah's head rather than being documented and encoded into a reliable automated system.
Exactly. The process doesn't belong to the business. It belongs to Sarah.
But wait, let me push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
Aren't spreadsheets and email chains just the scrappy, everyday backbone of how business actually gets done? I mean, I love a good spreadsheet.
We all do.
They're incredibly flexible. They're cheap. Literally anybody can spin one up in 5 seconds. At what point do everyday workflows, like the ones you listening right now are probably using to track your projects, cross the line from highly useful, scrappy tools to dangerous operational liabilities.
It is a totally fair defense of the spreadsheet. Spreadsheets are fantastic, flexible tools for ad hoc analysis or prototyping a quick idea. But the danger lies in the mechanics of scale.
Okay, the scale.
Yeah. Spreadsheets and email chains are not robust operational systems. When they become the load-bearing walls of a core business process, you introduce the extreme fragility of human dependence.
Because humans make mistakes.
Exactly. Think about the mechanics of manual data entry. When a human being is tired and they are manually transferring hundreds of rows of data between systems, typos aren't just possible. Statistically, they are inevitable.
A dropped zero in a finance spreadsheet can cost a company millions.
Exactly. And when your approval workflows live entirely in the chaotic environment of someone's email inbox, crucial documents are going to get buried under newsletters and meeting invites.
So it isn't about the tool being inherently bad. It's about the tool breaking under the weight of volume.
Precisely. And this leads to a brilliant metric for evaluation from the guide. The true tipping point is when a business realizes it cannot double its transaction volume without simultaneously doubling its headcount.
Oh, wow. Wait, really?
Right. It's a profound realization.
That is a light bulb moment.
When you reach a point where taking on 20% more clients means you're forced to hire 20% more administrative staff just to handle the manual paperwork of those new clients, your scrappy spreadsheets are no longer helping you. They have become a literal structural blockade to your own growth.
If you can't double volume without doubling headcount, you have a structural problem. I think anyone listening can instantly apply that metric to their own team right now.
Absolutely.
So let's say a business leader hears that, looks at their team, and realizes they've hit that exact wall. What actually happens when the automation consultants walk through the door? The source material breaks down a very deliberate playbook, a clear 5-step methodology for how this tangled mess actually gets fixed.
It starts with step 1, process assessment and discovery. And the methodology here is crucial. The consultants do not just sit in a boardroom and map out how the work is supposed to flow according to the official employee handbook.
Because the official handbook never matches what people actually do.
Never. Not once. A consultant will literally shadow an employee. They map how it actually flows in messy reality.
Right.
The official manual might say, review the document and approve. But the consultant watching the employee realizes that the software doesn't allow digital signatures.
Oh, I know where this is going.
So the employee has to print the PDF, sign it with a pen, scan it back into the computer, email it to themselves, and then upload it to the server.
It's exhausting just hearing it.
But that invisible, absurd workaround is exactly what the consultant is looking for.
That makes total sense. Because without establishing that foundational truth of how work is actually getting done, you'd end up designing an automation that solves the wrong problem entirely.
Which brings us to step 2, identifying the actual opportunities. Once they see the reality, they filter for tasks that have high volume, are strictly rule-based, and are highly prone to human error.
Makes sense.
Then step 3 is prioritizing those opportunities. A good consultant won't try to boil the ocean and fix the entire company on day 1.
Right. That would be chaotic.
They target the high-impact, lower-complexity use cases first to secure early wins and build internal momentum.
And then we get to the actual build. Step 4 is the design and implementation phase. This is where they are configuring the platforms and building the integrations.
Exactly.
For instance, finally building a bridge so your customer relationship management software, your CRM, can securely talk directly to your finance platform without a human copying and pasting the client details.
Yes. And then step 5 is monitoring the results and continuously improving. They establish metrics to ensure the automation is actually saving time.
And within that playbook, consultants typically find the highest value in a few core target areas, right?
Yeah, finance is massive, specifically invoice processing, where you can use software to automatically extract data from a PDF invoice and enter it into the ledger. HR is another huge area. Think about employee onboarding.
Oh, setting up a new hire is always a mess.
Right. Normally, HR creates a record, then emails IT to provision a laptop, then emails security to issue a badge. If IT misses that email, the new hire shows up on Monday with no computer. Automation links those systems so the HR entry automatically triggers the IT and security tasks in their respective systems.
Here's where it gets really interesting. With all this talk of optimizing these processes, the text issues a massive, flashing red warning about the most common mistake businesses make when embarking on this journey.
Yes, this is so important.
The biggest mistake you can make is automating a broken process. And to replace my earlier personal trainer analogy, I like to think of it this way. Automating a broken process is exactly like putting a rocket engine on a car with no steering wheel.
That's a great image.
Right.
Right.
Like, yes, you are making the journey much faster, but you haven't fixed the car. You've just guaranteed it will crash much, much faster.
What's fascinating here is where those broken processes usually exist within a company. The most impactful automation opportunities almost always lie at the boundaries between departments.
Wait, really? Why are the boundaries so problematic?
Because different departments use completely different software logic. Sales lives in their CRM, operations lives in their inventory management system. Those systems don't natively speak the same language.
Oh, I see.
So what bridges the gap? Human email. The boundary is where structure is often entirely missing, relying purely on an account executive remembering to manually email an operations manager.
And people forget.
All the time. Automating those specific handoffs introduces rigid reliability exactly where human memory is most likely to fail.
Okay, so if the playbook is essentially find the bad process, correct it, and then automate it,
Yeah.
I think you might naturally wonder, why can't a business just use its own internal IT or operations team to do this? Like, why are we paying premium rates to hire an external consultant?
It is the classic build versus buy debate. And the text compares external consulting versus doing it in-house across a few key dimensions.
Such as?
Well, let's look at the mechanics of speed to value, for instance. An external consultant is dramatically faster because they arrive with established methodologies and pre-built tooling on day one. If you want an in-house team to do it, you have to spend months recruiting the talent, onboarding them, and then they have to invent their operational playbook from scratch.
But let me challenge that. If I hire an external consultant, aren't their incentives slightly misaligned?
How do you mean?
Well, isn't the consulting model essentially designed to make me dependent on them so I keep paying a massive retainer fee forever? The cost model of an internal team means I'm building permanent capability within my own walls.
That is exactly the danger of a bad consulting partnership. And it is a very valid fear. A bad consultant builds a black box and holds the keys.
Right.
But the text argues that true automation consulting is explicitly designed with long-term ownership in mind. A reputable firm mandates a knowledge transfer phase. In fact, for mature organizations, they strongly suggest a hybrid approach.
Oh, a hybrid approach.
Yeah. You bring in the external consulting partner purely to lead the initial discovery, set the strategy, and build the architecture. But they work shoulder to shoulder with your internal IT team. That way, you get the immediate speed and specialized knowledge up front, but your internal team owns the long-term roadmap.
I want to zero in on another dimension they mention, objectivity. Because I think this is where internal teams truly struggle. Think about your own habits for a second.
Oh, boy.
No, seriously. If you try to optimize your own daily morning routine, aren't you completely blind to your own bad habits?
Yeah.
You might not even realize that standing in the kitchen scrolling on your phone for 20 minutes while the coffee brews is a massive bottleneck, simply because it feels completely normal to you.
That is highly specific, but yes.
Do internal teams inherently lack the objectivity to see their own legacy assumptions?
Absolutely. Internal teams are swimming in the water, so they can't see the water. Because they are embedded in the existing ways of working, they accept historical workarounds as laws of physics.
Right. That's just how gravity works around here.
Exactly. An external consultant has the profound advantage of being able to ask the seemingly stupid questions. They can look at a process and ask, why do you print this out, stamp it, and scan it back in?
And the internal team might pause and realize, oh, because the software we used 5 years ago required physical documentation, and when we upgraded, we just never stopped doing it.
We just kept doing it, exactly. And speaking of bad practices, if you are evaluating external partners, there is a glaring red flag to watch out for.
Ooh, tell me.
If a consulting partner sits down for your very first meeting, and before they ask a single question about your business goals, your bottlenecks, or your staff, they immediately start pitching a specific software platform you need to walk away.
Because they're selling the treadmill.
Yes, and that platform-first mentality leads directly into another catastrophic mistake: ignoring user adoption and change management.
People hate having technology done to them.
Precisely. You can design the most technically elegant, perfectly optimized automation in the world. But if your human workforce doesn't trust the bot, if they don't understand how it works, or Critically, if they weren't consulted during the design phase, they will actively find ways to sabotage or circumvent it.
If they feel threatened by it, the project fails.
Completely fails. Change management, communicating the why and training the humans is absolutely non-negotiable. It's also why you cannot automate an entire company overnight. You must take a phased approach, building trust with small, high-impact wins before tackling the massive cross-departmental monsters.
Because building that organizational confidence is what actually allows a business to truly transform. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this brings us to the ultimate long-term impact of automation consulting.
Which is so important to get right.
And it's crucial to state clearly that this is not about a dystopian future of replacing people with machines.
No, not at all. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of the goal. Automation consulting is about building a structurally sound operational foundation. It improves your company's resilience.
Right.
And perhaps most importantly today, it acts as a mandatory catalyst for broader digital transformation. If you are a business leader who wants to eventually adopt advanced generative AI to analyze your company's data, you literally cannot do that if your data is currently trapped in messy, undocumented, error-ridden spreadsheets.
Yeah, the AI won't know what to do with it.
Exactly. Automation consulting cleans the house so you have the infrastructure capable of supporting future tech.
There's an exact quote from the POTENZA text that I think summarizes the true value proposition beautifully. It says, "The greatest gains from automation are rarely the obvious ones. Alongside speed and accuracy, businesses discover they have more bandwidth for strategic thinking, and that alone changes how they grow."
More bandwidth for strategic thinking. That is the key. When you stop forcing human brains to act like router cables, they can actually start solving complex problems.
So what does this all mean for you? Take a hard look at your own workday tomorrow. Look at the workflows your team relies on. Identify those highly manual, repetitive tasks that require absolutely none of your actual human judgment.
Just the busy work.
Yeah. Now, imagine what you and your team could achieve, the creative or strategic problems you could actually tackle if those specific tasks just permanently disappeared from your calendar.
And that leads to a critical question we should all be mulling over as this technology becomes ubiquitous.
What's that?
If automation consulting successfully strips away all the repetitive manual tasks from our daily work, what entirely new, uniquely human skills will you need to develop to ensure you thrive in the workplace of tomorrow?
That's a wrap for today's episode of the POTENZA podcast series, where we decode SAP, automate with RPA, and analyze with precision. We hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the technologies transforming tomorrow's enterprise. Got questions or ideas for a future episode? Drop them in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time. Thank you.